All right, let's get right into it. We're about to unpack a pretty gripping and honestly a very unsettling story from Gordon Thomas's book, Gideon Spies. It's a story that puts one of the world's most secretive intelligence agencies right at the heart of one of its most public tragedies.
And yeah, that's really the question at the heart of all this, isn't it? According to the book, digging into that question opens up this whole world of high-stakes espionage, all centered on the final, tragic days of Princess Diana's life.
So, to really get what happened, we need to go inside one of the most famous luxury hotels in the world. See, the Paris Ritz, it wasn't just a playground for the rich and famous. It had also become a quiet meeting spot for international arms brokers, a place where huge, multi-million-dollar deals were being hashed out over cocktails.
And because of all that, Mossad, that's Israel's legendary intelligence agency, they saw the hotel as this massive source of vital information. They were convinced that the whispers inside those walls were a direct threat to Israel's security. So they decided they needed to get someone on the inside. The agent they sent in for this incredibly high-stakes mission was a seasoned field agent, what they call a katsa. He was operating under the name Maurice, and his job was what Mossad calls a cold approach. Basically, turn someone into an asset who has no idea you're coming for them. His target was already working inside the hotel. So who was Maurice's target? Well, it was the hotel's assistant chief of security, a man named Henri Paul. He was a guy who showed one face to the world, respectable, totally trusted, but behind closed doors, he was living a very different and much more messy life. I mean, just look at this contrast. On one hand, Henri Paul was the guardian of the Ritz's biggest secrets. But on the other, he was secretly betraying those secrets for cash, feeding little tidbits about celebrity guests to the very photographers he was supposed to be chasing away.
So yeah, this double life made him flawed, but it was his job that made him the perfect target. Think about it for a second. The guy had unparalleled access. He could get into any guest's safe deposit box, he could pull up hotel bills, phone records, everything. Plus, as a VIP chauffeur, he was literally a fly on the wall for some of the most sensitive conversations in the world. For an agency like Mossad, he was a potential goldmine.
So, the big question is, how do you turn a guy like that? Well, Maurice, the Katsa, he starts with a classic recruitment play. He builds a relationship, makes friends, but that friendly approach quickly turned into something a lot darker.
The process the book lays out is just methodical and, frankly, chilling. First, Maurice spends weeks just watching Paul, learning all his habits, all his weaknesses. Then comes the friendly approach, a casual chat in a bar near the Ritz. And finally, after building a little trust, he drops the bomb. Maurice lets Paul know that his dirty little secret about selling info to photographers, well, it wasn't a secret at all. And just like that, snap, the trap was sprung. Paul was completely cornered. Maurice offered him real money, way more than the paparazzi were paying. But it wasn't really an offer. The message was crystal clear. You work with us, or we expose you to your bosses at the Ritz. Henri Paul was caught. And you can just imagine what this kind of pressure does to a person. He starts to completely unravel. The book says he began drinking even more heavily. He was taking this dangerous cocktail of pills just to function. Antidepressants, sleeping pills, pep pills. His coworkers said he became erratic, quick to anger. He was a man coming apart at the seams. So I want you to just hold that image in your mind. This is the man who is about to get behind the wheel of a car with Princess Diana and Dodi Al-Fayed in the back. He wasn't just some driver. He was a man under unbearable pressure from a world-class intelligence agency teetering right on the brink of total collapse.
And all of this, all of it, is building to that one horrible night, August 31st, 1997. This is the moment where all these invisible forces, the spying, the blackmail, the psychological torment, they all come crashing together with fatal results in a Paris underpass.
Gideon Spies paints this incredibly tense picture, second by second, based on what the book claims was Mossad's own internal investigation. It shows the decoy cars peeling out to trick the paparazzi. It shows Henri Paul arriving in the Mercedes, nervously drumming his fingers on the steering wheel. And then, crucially, it mentions a Mossad lookout spotting a mysterious white Fiat Uno nearby.
Okay, and if that wasn't enough, this is where the whole thing gets even crazier. The book's sources claim that the Mossad report actually identified who was in that Fiat Uno. 2 officers from the DST,
which was France's counterintelligence agency. I mean, another spy agency on the scene at that exact moment? It just takes the mystery to a whole other level.
And then, just seconds later, inside that underpass, the Mercedes loses control. It slams into the 13th concrete pillar with what the book describes as a thunderous, screeching roar of metal. The result was just catastrophic.
So, what happens next? Well, in the immediate aftermath, Maurice, the Mossad Katza, he just gets on a plane and flies back to Tel Aviv. But according to this book, he left behind this trail of profound and deeply disturbing questions that still hang in the air today.
You gotta ask, right? What was possibly going through Henri Paul's head in that driver's seat? Was he actually focused on the road? Or was his mind just racing, trying to figure a way out of the impossible trap that Mossad had put him in? And that question, it completely flips the script on how we usually think about this story. We always see Henri Paul as the villain, right? The drunk driver. But what if, according to the claims in this book, he was also a victim, a casualty of a much bigger, invisible game being played by some very powerful and ruthless people?
And then there's maybe the biggest bombshell of them all from the book. What happened to that white Fiat Uno? Well, the internal Mossad report allegedly says it was driven onto a truck, taken away, and squeezed into a block of scrap metal in a car crusher just hours after the crash. If that's true, the implications of a cover-up are just staggering.
So in the end, Gideon Spies doesn't give you a neat little answer. Instead, it leaves us with this chilling final thought from the author, that in the shadowy world of spies and secrets, maybe some truths are just too dangerous to ever see the light of day. It really makes you wonder what else we don't know about that tragic night in Paris.